Just get your camera set up so you can see yourself on the screen and you're good to go.
What happened?
You're there. There we go.
I can't turn my phone horizontally.
You can do that. You look good. You're just at a little bit of a slant. But you
I'm
want to
gonna
keep
turn
it
it
vertical
this
if
way.
you can. Yeah, you want to go vertical.
I want to go vertical.
Yeah,
Okay.
there
I'm
you go.
vertical.
There you are.
Jeez.
This is the 21st century.
I'll tell you.
Are you ready
All right,
for it?
sir. Yeah.
You ready for modern technology and all of its virtual needs?
Apparently, yeah. Yeah.
Thanks for doing this today. This should be fun.
Yeah. I'm happy that you were able to accommodate me and let me on the air here.
Well, everybody's more excited to see you than me. I can tell you that much. Let's. Everybody knows that you're the front man at Devo, and you've got this rock and roll career. The thing that's interesting to me about your wines is that, and you know this, with all the people that I've consulted for over the last, let's say, 5 years who wanted to start their own booze labels, you were the only person who really knew what you wanted and actually knew about the thing you were making rather than just paying somebody to find you something to put your name on. How did you end up finding the wine, let's say the grapes and the source for the Pinot Noir in the Sonoma Coast to make these wines?
Well, yeah, I appreciate that you brought that up about the fact that a lot of people in bands put their names on stuff, and then that becomes a horrible double-edged sword. Because if you're somebody like me trying to do it seriously, which besides me, there's like Maynard, Tool,
Right.
and who else? Les Claypool.
Mm-hmm.
These people are serious, and I'm serious, and so I spent time, because I'm a Pinot Noir junkie and think the Pinot Noir grape is, the greatest gift of the grape world from whatever God you believe in. I searched around Sonoma because the only Pinot Noirs I liked in California were from Sonoma Coast and from Russian River Valley next door. And I knew why we could make the best stuff in California there. And then it was a matter of saying, well, are there growers? Because I didn't want to buy grapes from somebody that was also making a brand. I didn't want to do that because I wanted it to be neutral. Growers are growers, and they don't really care if 10 different winemakers take their wine and do different things with it. They just
Right.
want to sell. So they're just trying to grow and trying to grow well. And so I looked at all the growers that I could look at and who I could do business with, because I'm a small boutique producer starting out. So I made a deal finally with Rogers Creek after driving around, tasting, testing, months and months of stuff. At Rogers Creek, the lie of the land was great. It was like, okay, a little north of the Petaluma Gap in the Sonoma Coast, and the vines, most of them were 23 years old, and it was on like a 10% slope with really great coastal climate flowing straight in from the ocean. So you had the cool nights and the hot days and the stressed vines, all the stuff you want from Pinot Noir. And I was very interested from the beginning, after, because I had tested all this out. I wanted only Dijon clones and Pomard clones, and I wanted to blend those. That's what I decided.
Let's talk about that real fast for people that don't know what Dijon and Pomard clones are. Maybe they don't drink Burgundy. Maybe your Pinot Noir is their first Pinot Noir. And
Right.
when you say that, why? Let's talk a little bit about those clones and why you wanted them. I'll just fill people in real fast. Those are clones of Burgundian varietals from France.
Right. And you're more conversant than me, David. on how many clones there are of Pinot Noir. There's so many, actually. There's like at least a dozen or so in Northern California that people constantly use. But out of those, I wanted the Burgundian ones because obviously Burgundy's still the gold standard for what you can do with the Pinot Noir varietal. And, we've traded back and forth between California and Burgundy because of disease and because of phylloxera and other diseases. We've traded back and forth these clones now for 40, 50 years at least. And these are the clones that produce consistently for me the flavors that I need, in the grape, in the juice, that I'm after. Because obviously what I wanted to do is produce a Pinot Noir from California that was balanced and pleasant and food-centric and very unmanipulated, more like French Burgundy.
Right.
Rather than these crazy over-oaked and over-extracted weird Pinots that are practically dessert wine in California. So that's why I picked the Dijon 667 and the Pommard. And that's why I wanted to blend them. One has the fragrance and the kind of strawberry, raspberry thing, which is the Dijon. And then the Pommard added some heft. Added a little bit of what you get in that French Burgundy that you like that gives it structure. Because I wanted my wines to age. And even though they're only medium bodied, which I prefer because that matches with food, they're structured well. And I'll quit pontificating.
No, it's all really good information, and it's all true. Like what's interesting about listening to you talk is that it's really about leadership, right? Having jumped around to quite a few jobs over the last few years, having been, in the job that I was at for so long, to bounce around and to have to meet new people again. The thing that strikes you about people that are in charge of any business, whether it's a wine or anything, is whether they have any vision. Even if you don't agree with what their vision is, do they know what they want? And then do they know how to get there? And then does it succeed in achieving the vision that they laid out, right? And when you laid out your synopsis, you knew what you wanted, you knew where to go find it, you went and you found it, and then you realized it. And now you have a wine that tastes exactly like the wine that you wanted to make based off of your own research and your own vision, which is really cool.
Well, yeah, hopefully. I mean, it's close. And again, it's like anything else that's connected to nature. Every year is different. And, some years you hit it better and some years you miss a little. Well, the 2018 Sonoma Coast 50 by 50 Pinot Noir, I lucked out because this turned out to be just an incredible year, an incredible vintage because of the weather. And the weather was finally forgiving after all these climate change years of hot weather that we're not allowed to deal with.
Do you mean lasers from space?
Yeah, exactly. Jewish lasers from space, yeah. And my question is, do they work on the Sabbath?
I don't know. That's a good question. Enough QAnon conspiracies, though. Back to your point.
Yeah, but 2018, and I listened to what James Suckling has to say. I've subscribed to his blog, and I'm on his list, and he's reviewed my wines. He's bloviating about the 18 in Sonoma and Napa. What a great vintage it was, and he's right. And turned out it was northern Italy and in Burgundy and France, across the globe. Incredible, because all the conditions were perfect. Not too much rain, not too little rain, not too much heat, not too little heat. And then the most important thing, of course, at the end, the finale, right? It cooled down. So we had this forgiving period to pick when the bricks were perfect. If you missed a day, you weren't in trouble. So the grapes got plump. The yield was high. They were not puckered at all. They were just full of juice. It was incredible. And it's bearing out in any producer who didn't screw up their harvest. Like that's what it's all about, right? Don't ruin it.
Right.
You buy a Wagyu piece of beef, and now all you do is sear it and eat it, right? That's the same thing with the Pinot Noir grape. It's delicate. You do not want to screw it up, and we don't. We have a minimalist intervention. That's the philosophy here. My winemaker that I work with is Eric Lyman. He's the enologist, so he's the chemicals numbers guy that I collaborate with because he knows my taste and he knows what I'm trying to do, but he knows the nomenclature. So we work together, and we use multiple fermentations. We take whole cluster, but we take berry-only clusters too, and we separate the clones during the whole process. We never mix the 667 Dijon and the Pomard, and we keep them fermented separately. And when they go into the barrels, they're barrel fermented separately. After the cold soak and the 2 week or so open top fermentation process. We only rack it one time. There's no fining. There's no filtering. Maybe minimal filtering. All right.
I'm surrounded right now. I'm surprised it didn't happen sooner, to be honest.
I'm going to have to ask where my Mau Mau is.
Yeah, where's Mau Mau? You're up at, so this is, well, since you're talking about homes, you're in your Napa house right now. I can tell because of the wall panel. And
I'm in the redwood room.
You're in the redwood room. What I like about the way that you not only think about wine, but the way that you look at wine is the sense of community. Because when I was up there right before COVID earlier last year, you were hanging out, like you hang out with your winemakers. You guys eat together and drink together and talk together. And it's like a real, it's not one of these situations where you call a guy on a phone and he puts together some samples and those samples show up and you taste them and then, you pick one and that's the one you're going to put your name on. It's very much you are involved from at every step.
I just couldn't even. That's why I didn't push the Devo connection because celebrities have ruined the seriousness of winemaking, unfortunately. Again, with few exceptions that we talked about, but I wouldn't ever do what you're saying because then you're going to put your name on a wine that doesn't have any character, any individuality. Look, okay, I grew up blue collar, and I can never forget that experience and what it does to me. So what I wanted to do, really, above everything else in a way, was make a Pinot Noir wine that people could afford. Because the Burgundies I love, even I can't afford.
Yeah, right.
Now, except maybe once in a while, like as a treat, right? It's not a daily drink. I thought, why should only the 1% drink great wine? That's unfortunate to me because wine is so part of life, and the wine and food thing we have to eat every day, we have to drink every day. It should be an experience that elevates your life through the synchronicity of wine and food, right? So my wine's affordable. So you don't have to be rich to drink good Pinot Noir. And that's what I'm happiest that I was heading towards here and achieving. Right. And I think the 18 really does it. The 16 did it so brilliantly. And I'm in my 8th year of release now. So I'm dialing it in. It's happening.
Well, the last vintage I thought was the best one, the 18.
Yeah. And
we have it at the store, and everybody at Mission who's had it loves it. And we've already sold out of the first order. That's why you sent another order yesterday. Oh, there's Mau Mau. Gerald, just for those of you who don't know, Gerald has a giant cat that's half serval.
Put her on my shoulders.
And it's about 4 feet long. And there's Krista. Oh, yeah, that almost worked.
23 pounds.
Yeah. It's a real treat when you hang out with Mau Mau. Let me ask you this, since we've covered the winemaking part, when you obviously, all of us have had some sort of period where we got into food and wine for whatever reason. You got into food and wine while you were on tour with Devo. Obviously, you have all these experiences traveling around the world. You get to eat at certain places. People want to take you out to eat. They want to pour stuff for you, and then you obviously take a liking to certain things over that time, over the years, and over your experiences. What were some of the most important food and wine experiences for you from traveling on the road over your career?
Boy, yeah, there were so many because there was one in France, one in Italy, and one in Australia, and they were all very different. But look, a lot of the people in the music business that are the promoters and A&R men and stuff. Okay, yes, they were unscrupulous, and yes, they were screwing the artist, but boy, they ate and drank and lived well. So while they were taking money out of your pocket, they were like treating you to stuff. So it was interesting because when we were in Italy, like in 1980, touring for the first time, the promoter, who was fairly infamous, Francesco Sanavio, and he goes, "Hey Devo, you want to go visit vineyards?" And it's like everybody was like, "No, we want to stay in our hotel room and go out in the town and shop, right?" But I raised my hand. I go, "I'll go."
Right.
Right. And guess where I was taken? Castello di Ama in Tuscany. And then you see the way these people live, the town and country lifestyle, the graciousness. They had a chef on premises. They had, their wine caves with their wine library there. And they were just happy to share with you and like turn you on. And while I was drinking their obvious Tuscan wines, they also were people that made really early on. They made Italian Pinot Noir, which they call Pinot Nero. And a guy brought something out of the cellar, and here's these people grilling eggplant and red peppers and serving it with mozzarella, and prosciutto, and it's magical, and you're just like turned on. It's like a drug experience, except it's not bad for you. So you're not paying the piper later on in life. So it blew my mind. I never forgot it. And then, of course, the experience after a concert in Paris where the promoter took us out to La Coupole, and a few of us went. And he goes, "Hey, do you like wine?" And I said, "My God, I like wine." He goes, let me get you a bottle of wine you're going to like." And we're eating duck. He brings a DRC to the table, a Domaine Romani Conti to the table, which I never even saw the bill, but I know in retrospect this was insane.
Right.
And this was 1984. So God knows we were drinking. I don't remember the vintage. All I remember is that when the first gulp went down my throat, I was like,
Were there ever any other people in other bands that you were touring with that also liked wine? I always think about this because because in the NBA bubble, I guess wine was huge, and all the basketball players in the bubble. Yeah. So I'm wondering if the basketball stars are getting together to drink wine, which rock stars get together to drink wine?
I would sure love it if LeBron James would taste my Pinot Noir. I would love that.
I'm gonna make that happen now that I'm in LA before the year is over. You have my word on that.
He could drink the syrup. He could drink this stuff like water all day long and serve it at parties because he drinks the big time.
Yeah.
But yes, you know who really loved wine more than anybody else in any band that I ever got to sit down with was Martin Ware from Heaven 17, which I guess was considered an art band, but I loved Heaven 17, the English band, very much. And he was he was a wine connoisseur even when I met him. Met the whole band in '81. We hung out for a couple weeks in Los Angeles together. They were recording something and rented a house in the Hollywood Hills. We were hanging out. It was great. It was fantastic. But then I went to visit him because he had a condo that he bought on the island of Giudecca off of Venice. And he knew all the restaurants to go to in Venice, and we were just drinking all these great Italian wines. I mean, my God, they, just amazing stuff. And I mean, not just from that area. We were drinking Barolo's, we were drinking Brunello's, we were drinking stuff from around Lago di Garda that gets him, brought over to Venice a lot.
Right.
And it was so much fun to just be talking and eating and drinking, and talking ideas and music and loving this wine and food, match.
There's what's interesting about wine people. I've always been. I mean, you and I have this in common, where that's why we get along. Where we have the blue collar background, and there's not a lot of patience for sort of snobbery or condescension. And working in the wine and spirits industry, you're working in like maybe the industry that's more rife with those two characteristics than any other industry.
And it used to be even more so.
Right. It's less so now, but there's always something, right? There's always a way that people use wine to form this identity or this version of themselves that they want you to believe.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate.
But I only bring this up because the one way that you can usually out somebody who doesn't really like wine as much as they think they do is to go to their house and eat their food. And if you go to someone's house and they can't cook, that's usually a sign that they don't have great taste. That's not 100% true. There's people that I know about wine that order takeout every night because they don't give a shit. But more or less, that's been true. And having been to your house on several occasions to eat, I will say to the world that you are one of the best cooks that I've ever hung out with.
That's so kind of you, man. Coming from you, and you're a connoisseur of many things, only starting with wine and food, and including music. For you to say that, thank you very much.
Well, I will both. So we were at your house with my wife, Dean Cameron, and that was when we had Tony Basil over to do the Rockula reunion. Right. And you made wood-fired pizzas, and you were so covered in like sweat running up and down the stairs. I don't think you said one word to anybody the whole night because you were in like complete chef mode, where it was like pizza and then pad thai and then shrimp and then scallops. And all of us were hanging out, and you're just like running all over the place cooking, and every dish was perfect. And everybody who was there still agrees that the wood-fired pizzas were some of the best pizzas they've ever had.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, though.
It was worth it for me. I don't know about for you, but...
Well, I'll tell you, see, it's like getting back to what you started this last bit with, is that there are people who love the process.
Right.
Just like you have to make music, you have to like the process of working on the music, creating the music, recording the music, right? You have to like the process. With cooking, you can't want to get it over with.
Mm-hmm.
You have to go right into that and be in the zone, right? And it's similar with winemaking. It's people, look, we'll go right to sex. All this stuff is connected to sex. All of it's connected to sex. There are people who like sex because they actually appreciate sex and they realize that sex has a transcendent component that goes beyond the physical to the spiritual, and that's what makes it so exciting. And that's what makes it doable over and over. And eating and drinking should be like that. Then there's other people that only like sex because of the power or the status. Those are the people you're talking about that just buy big name wines and show them off. And put them in their cellar until they're too old to drink, right? So there's people who really like sex, and there's people who only like sex because of the power involved with it. And that's the difference between people that like food and wine and people that just want to be exclusive and, know more than you do. Like, if I know more than you, I'll share it with you. Like, that's what I want. It's like, wait a minute. If you know something, can you let me in on it?
Right.
I want to know as much as I can know. I guess that's a stupid position in these devolved times where people are like proud of being closed and stupid. They wear it as a badge of honor.
I think that's one segment of the population for sure, but the segment that we're talking about is most definitely afraid to admit when they don't know something. If you bring up the name of a varietal that they've never heard of, they're like, "Oh, of course I've had that. Of course I've had it." I mean, there's a lot of. I always found it interesting that blind tastings and the ability to like name a vintage and a varietal was always held as like this great ability. I've been to wine groups and wine events where there's like 5 glasses and someone says, "I think that's the 73 Montrachet," and everyone goes, "Ooh, wow!" And I'm always like, I don't fucking care. I mean, I think it's cool that you can do that, great. But I mean, it doesn't mean that I trust your judgment about wine. It doesn't mean that I think you know.
Because everybody's almost always wrong.
Yeah, well, that's the joke. That's the joke. No one ever gets it right.
It's the wine that they say they were going to choose when it's blind. They choose another one.
Right.
But that's why I included Braille on my label.
Is there Braille on your label?
Yeah. So that an actual person who has sight issues could have a leg up in a blind tasting.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, because it reads right here. Let me see. Right, you see?
Yeah, no, I see it there on the left side, right.
That's Braille. It says the 50 by 50. So there you go. You
Amazing.
can cheat with my bottle in a blind tasting.
Well, that's genius. I had no idea. That's a new thing that I've learned today from you. I have 3 hungry cats. They're going to tear me apart if I don't give them the rest of their food. So I want to say thank you again for taking the time to do this. I've got the 50 by 50 rosé, which I don't have any in the store right now. But
well, it's gone.
Right.
And as you know, it was. I lucked out. It was stellar.
Yeah, it was a great wine.
But I think I'm going to release the new vintage in March. I think it's going to be just as good. I just tasted it.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, we've got the wines in the store. We got more 50 by 50 Pinot Noir that showed up today. We got a great price. It's $24.99 right now at Mission, which is as good of a price for it as I've ever seen. Jerry's just down the street in case we need more, so we're not going to run out anytime soon. So if anybody needs any, come find me at Mission. And if you've got any comments about how much you love the wine, follow Jerry on his Instagram site and let him know how much you like the wine. And I'm going to post this onto the Mission blog so that people can watch the conversation later that couldn't make it today.
Yeah, I'm drinking the 18 Pinot right now with some toast points and ghost cheese, Laura Chanel ghost cheese, and perfect.
Yeah.
It's really, I have to say, if I didn't make this wine, I'd like it.
I'm sure that's the case. No, but everybody likes the wine. That's like, again, there are so many things that I've been a part of to where I can get behind something because of the idea of it or because I like the person. But I like you and I like the idea of the wine, but it doesn't matter in this case. The wine's just good, and it's serious and it's layered and there's so much going on. It's just it's a phenomenal wine, and we're thrilled to have it.
Thank you, David. Thank you for your time.
Of course. Thank you for your time. Say hi to Krista. Say hi to Mau Mau and the rest of the group, and we'll be in touch.
All right.
All right. Bye, Jerry.